meeting of the Park District of Highland Park Board of... That's directed to you. At 6:01 p.m. Kathy, would you have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Bernstein.
Here.
Commissioner Flores-Weisskopf.
Here.
Commissioner Kaplan will be joining us shortly. Vice President Ruttenberg.
I'm here.
And President Myers will not be in attendance tonight.
Are there any additions to the agenda from any of the commissioners, or Liza, do you have anything you want to add? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Public comment. Is there any public comment to any of the matters on the agenda?
Sure, would you like to?
Always.
Okay. The exercise classes, the senior exercise classes had their second dinner last night. It was very well attended with a waiting list. The ladies absolutely adore each other, adore the program. They are so gung-ho, they're like a sorority. And they include everyone, and there were some gentlemen also present because they take the classes, and they love being together. First comment. Second comment,
Two.
Community Gardens was a smashing success. Diane did a great job, and it was wonderful. There's a camaraderie, again, with the people who participate, and next year, if you increase the program, I'm sure you'll have lots of people who will be interested. And it was the present chairman's idea with me, you, Barney, to get this started, and I think it's an absolutely fabulous program.
Great, thank you. Thank you. It's not anything I did, so thank you to the staff and to the participants. How come we didn't get any vegetables?
How can I look?
Where are our vegetables? Yeah, see? Next year we're going to have a tax, a vegetable tax.
I enjoyed some of Mrs. Bernstein's delicious gazpacho.
Ladies and gentlemen, please plan on attending. It's the 16th of January, and the work is begun.
Right. Thank you for the reminder. Any other comments from any of the other public? Well, we have to ask. You're right, though. All right, so let's move on to the consent agenda. Items A through G, all are matters that we reviewed and discussed previously. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion approved.
I second.
Or is there any discussion on the matters of the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll take a vote, please.
Commissioner Bernstein.
Aye.
Commissioner Flores-Weisskopf.
Aye.
Vice President Ruttenberg.
Aye. The motion is carried. So now we'll move on to unfinished business. Truth in taxation. Director Curtis.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Okay. At the Finance Committee that was held on October 26th, the board discussed the levy to be requested for tax year 2016, which is budget year 2017. So at that meeting, the Finance Committee really went through the levy in a lot of detail, asked a lot of questions. We had a very good conversation about it. And so the next step in the process is passing the Truth in Taxation Resolution. And we need to do that at least 20 days prior to adopting the levy ordinance. So that is tonight. So we're going to be passing the Truth in Taxation Resolution tonight. The levy ordinance itself will be on the agenda for the December 15th board meeting, and it will be passed at that time. Because the district is not extending aggregated property tax levy greater than 5% of the preceding year's final extension, a public hearing is not needed. The 2016 Truth in Taxation Resolution reflects an increase of 4.39% over the prior year's extension. The CPI used for the calculation, or to calculate the levy request, is 0.7%, and this is dictated by the state code. And support of the recreation, of special recreation, which is included in the levy, is at 4 cents. 2016 levy request is designed to ensure the district captures all new growth related to new property. If this growth is not captured during the first year the property is added to the tax roll, it is lost to the district moving forward. New growth estimated by Lake County totals $9.8 million, but I want to stress that is just an estimate at this time. We are asking for a levy of $11.2 million. That is based on our approach of trying to capture the new growth. What we think we'll receive and what was included in the 2017 budget is a little less at $10.8 million. The district will be notified in the spring as to the final new growth calculation and the final extension, which is really what the district will receive during 2017. If EAVs remain constant and there is no change in growth, the levy requested will be decreased by Lake County, so they make an automatic adjustment to it. If we have if our levy target is too high, they will adjust downward, and we would only be entitled to receive the CPI of 0.7%. So an owner of a $500,000 home will see an addition to their taxes of approximately $11.42.
Per year? Month.
Oh, yeah, that's it. So it's the whole game of guessing of trying to anticipate or guess the new growth. So staff recommends that the Board of Commissioners approve Resolution 1601, Truth in Taxation, indicating that the tax levy for 2017-2016 tax year will be $11,204,000. So we need to approve that resolution tonight.
Are there any questions, or should we discuss this in great detail, I think, at the workshop meeting? So is there a motion to approve the resolution 16-01, Truth in Taxation?
Move for approval?
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? If there is not, we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bernstein?
Aye.
Commissioner Flores-Weiskopf?
Aye.
Vice President Ruttenberg?
Aye. The motion carries. Budget and Appropriation Ordinance 16-05. Director Curtis.
Okay, again, we're moving through the levy process and the budget process really run parallel to each other. So by the end of December, it'll be done, both of them. So again, the 2017 budget was presented to the Board of Commissioners at the November 8th, 2016 workshop, which was last week. And then prior to the workshop, the Finance Committee reviewed the budget in great detail at that October 26th meeting. 2017 will move the district from planning to building, as was in the case in 2015 while the district was completing Rosewood Beach. The budget reflects a deficit balance of $4.6 million. And I really want to stress this is a planned use of reserves to support capital projects. Overall operations continue to grow at a very healthy pace, providing the community with a quality product. In preparation for final approval at December 15th's board meeting, tonight I'm asking for the board to approve consensus to lay down the 2017 draft budget and appropriation for 30 days. Currently, the district's residents can review the budget on the website, at both Westridge and the Rec Center, and also at the Highland Park Public Library. In your board packet is the 2017 budget and appropriation ordinance number 1605 for the Park District of Highland Park. Prior to December's board meeting, the Board of Commissioners will conduct a hearing to provide interested residents with the opportunity to comment on the budget and the related ordinance. Immediately following the hearing, the Board of Commissioners will vote on whether or not to accept the 2017 budget and appropriation ordinance number 1605. So in order to have it officially lay open for the next 30 days, staff requests the Board of Commissioners to provide consensus to lay down the draft 2017 budget and appropriation ordinance for a period of 30 days in accordance with the legal requirements.
Thank you. Are there any questions before we go to a motion on the budget?
I don't believe there's a motion. I think she said there's consensus.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any formal action taken. Is that correct?
It's a motion to lay down the
Is there-
budget.
I think it's a roll call vote.
It is?
I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's it.
Oh, all right.
That's what we've
I
done
don't
in
have
the
a
past.
resolution or anything like
It's
that.
a
but I
motion
do-
to lay down,
Yeah.
to lay the budget open for 30 days.
Right.
Right.
The actual budget ordinance will be passed at the
Right. We're
December
not
meeting.
approving the budget.
Yes, we'll
Right.
approve, make sure it's,
You're
The
approving its
procedural
rest.
steps.
yes. that's
Exactly.
So if there's no questions or comment, is there a
Yes, Chair.
motion to lay down the draft of the budget?
fine. Whatever the motion, to do that, I make that motion.
I second that strange motion. All right, is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, let's take a vote on this, please.
Commissioner Bernstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Flores Weiskopf,
Aye.
Commissioner Kaplan,
Just
Aye.
leave it open.
Vice President
Read it and see
Ruttenberg.
it.
Aye. It is, the motion is carried.
Okay.
And while we have you,
Can I keep going?
let's keep going.
Okay.
Treasurer's report.
The treasurer's report. Because this meeting is a week earlier than our usual monthly meeting, the treasurer's reports, the statements that you're looking at, they do not include the October financial information from the Highland Park Country Club. They were not able to provide me that information in time for me to get into the report, so. I checked earlier today, and I should have that by the end of the week. So your November report will include both, the December report, will include both October and November's. I just want to make two comments. The bulk of the property taxes have been collected through September and October. There are two outstanding payments that we'll receive by the end of November, and those are relatively small. Collections to date have totaled $11.3 million, and that's about 98% of budget. So with the two additional small collections, it's like $118,000 that we're waiting on. We'll actually hit that 99% collection right on our property taxes. So that's really good. And that the other comment is the debt payments will be coming due. We have our bond and debt certificate payments on December 15th. So debt payments for 2012 and 13 certificates, that issuance, and then the 2016 bond issuance are scheduled on the 15th. The total principal for all three of those is $1.895 million, and the total interest is $230,000. So we'll have a total outlay of $2.1 million. And just to remind the board, monies from operations from both the general and the rec fund will be transferred to debt service to support the debt certificates, and then the debt extension base is supporting those bond payments. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Today's vouchers that are presented in the board packet total $1,413,000. And I believe they are from checks from October 22nd, if my memory serves me right. I did not make a note of it, I apologize.
Are there any specific areas that you would like to address that we should be
You know,
particularly mindful of?
I am very excited about, and I didn't check everything because there is a lot, but I did make a note in my report that, in the treasurer's report, that our the revenue budgeted in the general fund has already, or our actual revenue as of 10/31 has surpassed our 12-month budget revenue amount already. So that's kind of, and once I saw that, I looked a little deeper in the rec fund. And also personal training has surpassed their 12-month budget. So at the end of at the end of October 31st, they have already surpassed their 12-month budget by $48,000 in revenue. So that's really telling on how strong that personal training area is growing and the commitment there. So The renovations are, I think, right on target.
That's great.
It's going to be great. So I'm kind of want to see what November looks like if we're going to have some other areas that are surpassing their budgeted revenue a month or two early. It's kind of nice.
That's wonderful. Any questions for what we just heard? Do we get to relieve you now?
I think I'm done. Until next
New
time.
business.
Thank you.
So every now and again at our regular meetings, we have some staff come and give a report on what's happening in specific areas. And one of the areas that we don't hear from that often, but it's not because they are not insignificant, they are significant, is our natural areas. And there's been actually a lot happening in the natural area restoration. So Rebecca Grill, our natural areas manager, and Liz Edelstein, who is our restoration technician, are here tonight to give an overview on a couple of special projects in the Natural Areas Department. And they are coming off quite a busy day today. They had a pretty cool event over at the Highland Park Country Club in the Rec Center, which I will let you girls talk about. So Liz, you're up here too.
Yep.
Did you burn something today?
Give her a stage and then
We
join
burned
her
something
later.
yesterday.
You did.
Thanks for asking.
You got to invite me to one of your burns.
Okay, we will.
I rode hard.
You might want to update them on the upcoming burn.
I
Yeah,
will.
yeah.
All right.
Make part of that. So we're going to talk to you about two things tonight: our progress at Skokie River Woods, really completion of our restoration plan there, and then an exciting award that we won. And then Liz is going to share with you breaking news, what we were doing today with the high school students at the rec center. So Skokie River Woods has been a project, I say 2002, that's when we signed our intergovernmental agreements, but really in 1998. A gentleman named Mr. Lushing was planning to develop this land. It is actually right here. And our community and our park district and cities were kind of visionary and said, you know what, this is about the only big piece of open space that's left around here that isn't a golf course. So they came together and decided to protect it. So our mission as the park district is to maintain it and to restore it back to its natural state, which was actually wetlands. The city's landfill was here for a long time, until the 1970s, and people had dumped waste into this property adjacent to it. So we were to go back in and restore wetlands, take the fill out of there and return that hydrology for the enjoyment of our community. So we have finished that now. We had a 5-year maintenance and monitoring program, which we just completed, and it was approved. And we have been awarded the 2016 Project of the Year for Best Management Practices from the Stormwater Management
Wow.
Commission. So I'm going to take you guys on a little bit of a tour, virtual tour of Skokie River Woods. I will invite you afterwards to come and join us one day out there. We'd love to show you the actual property, and I'm going to show you some of the things that are happening out there. So just to orient you again, this might be what you noticed when you were driving past Skokie River Woods, is the big golf dome.
Pretty sign.
But the view from the inside is pretty amazing. So this is one of the wetland areas that's just inside. Golf Dome would be just to the east of there. And the reason that we won this award is because we were able to achieve multiple benefits. Right? We didn't just go in and restore the wetlands and do the job that we were supposed to, but we restored water quality and habitat, and they saw the potential here now for recreation and educational opportunities. Look at the things that are going on in this piece of property. So we have salamanders. Blue-spotted salamanders are living in some of the wetlands. Wood ducks. That little guy on the bottom right hand is called a meadowhawk. It's kind of a dragonfly. So all of these amazing habitats are happening in there, and in terms of costs to our community residents, this restoration was, for the most part, paid for by grant funding. Okay. So we were able to accomplish all of this with the help of the Stormwater Management Commission, who provided $380,000 in funding. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how we leveraged some of that money to achieve even more than we had to. So one of the plant communities in there is a sedge meadow. And this is the area I was telling you about. I don't know if this will work on here. Yep. that's one of the areas we were talking about where we had fill in the, off the landfill. So this area was cleaned out of this oil that had been put in there, and then we planted a lot of flowers, and actually, as you can see down in the bottom, we now have wild iris and a lot of very beautiful and kind of rare plants. So I won't bore you with many charts here, but I wanted to show you one because it's indicative of how we outperformed our standards on this grant. So we had to fulfill 5 years' worth of monitoring past these standards, and you can see the little orange block there, that was the standard. And you can see that we far surpassed that in our second year of working out there. And this was one of the tougher areas to do. So we, those numbers reflect the fact that there are a diverse array of native plants and the kind that belong in a wetland. So those plants are in there and they're absorbing water. They have the power to actually cleanse that water if there are heavy chemicals in it. So there's where your water quality benefits come in. The northern flatwoods, you might find those at Heller Nature Center. They're the places where you get those kind of, you might find them in your backyard. In fact, they're the places that get inundated in spring. They create these ephemeral ponds that frogs and things and salamanders like to live in. They are actually globally imperiled as a plant community, and we were able to recreate this lovely one back here at Skokie River Woods. So the way we did that was through some very careful excavation. There were trees that were already existing in there, and if you can see in the lower picture where those puddles are, you can also see that the trees are kind of sitting up on their own little islands. So very careful excavation of that property and return these northern flatwoods, which is another kind of a wetland. So it's a wooded wetland. Then there was
How's it different from a swamp?
It is different from a swamp because it has more trees, the kind of trees that are in it. A swamp would have more grasses and be more like a marsh. And part of the property actually is open water, marshlands, a lot of birds are living in there. Good question. So the property is largely woods, right? So this was the so-called wetland buffer. The wetlands are up in these areas. And our good friend buckthorn. Can you grab our bag? The contractor for this project was Cardno, and they spent a lot of time in there, as we always do, Liz and I, cutting buckthorn. And then I mentioned to you that we were able to leverage our funds through competitive bidding. We got a good value for our money in terms of hiring Cardno, so we were able to go back to our funders and say, you know what, we've saved some money, can we put it back onto the property? Can we do more work? So we were able to go in and clear largely this entire area of buckthorn. And so today, in honor of that, we have presents for you. Genuine coasters from buckthorn from Riverwoods.
Cool. Thank you.
I'll put these next to my Cub coasters.
Please do.
Yeah.
Ban the buck.
Thanks,
That's
Liz.
great.
Yeah, so there's plenty more where that came from, by the way.
Thank you.
So.
My wife will be very excited.
One of the cool things, one of the cool things about cutting all that buckthorn down and doing that additional work is we were on the hook for 1.5 acres of wetlands. That's how those things work. When they give you the money, they say, okay, you're going to create this many wetlands. And think of that, creating a wetland, right, from scratch. Because we were able to go in and reduce this buckthorn canopy in there, it returns the natural hydrology. If you think of all that buckthorn in there sucking the water up, and we took it all away, the land is actually able to rebound and become more of a wet woods like it once was. And all of those plants and animals that depend on those things get to benefit. And instead of 1.5 acres of wetlands, we created 2.67 acres of wetlands. So that's another of the reasons that we were able to secure this award that we won. Talked a little bit about the funds for doing additional work. We also worked with our state partner, Illinois Department of Transportation. When you drive along Skokie River Woods, you'll see a nice cleared area, and then you'll see that it's full of buckthorn again. That's an IDOT easement, and they came in and actually helped us with the bottom half of that property and cleared their buckthorn from their property, and we have a letter of commitment for them to come up and help us with the rest of it. as soon as the state of Illinois is in better shape. So, so we're really proud of that happening. Of course, we've had a lot of partners in this project, the City of Highland Park, Lake County Forest Preserve District, IDNR, DOT, Stormwater Management Commission obviously provided the funding for the wetland restoration. Those two contractors, Cardno did the labor, Hay and Associates was very involved in the planning stages at the way back in the beginning in the 2000s, and our wonderful volunteers. So the next step is to get people to be able to enjoy this property. We are in the middle or beginnings of a planning process, also paid for by grant funding, to be able to figure out where we can put a trail through the property, or at least move people into it safely. And we're looking back to some of the old ideas about this property to be able to maybe have some connections between the rec center and be able to move people up into there, which would be just phenomenal. You know, we're talking about personal training, think about the opportunities to be able to recreate or walk up along in there. Certainly educational programming. We would have areas where people could stop and, you know, overlook this wetland. That's an unusual thing, I think, about the property is you're kind of up high, as you can see from that picture. Where else in, you know, this area at least, or in Illinois, can you really like look down onto a wetland? It's very cool. And there's lots of cool birds. We've had sandhill cranes and egrets and lots of wonderful things that we're excited to share with everybody. So we'd love to have you guys come on a walk. We can figure something out on a day when we have nice weather.
Yeah, and I will note that the path through the Riverwoods is something that we've been carrying in our capital plan. Our requirement of the agreement between the county and the city was to put this path in. And so we've got a grant for the planning of the path, and so we're working with Hay and Associates on that. So this is going to become a reality. We've just been waiting and planning to determine what the best access might be. So there's a lot to take into consideration, but we are now drawing nearer to needing to complete this phase of the project, so.
Oh, it sounds like wonderful. Rebecca, when did we first start planning this?
As I was saying, I believe that the Park District was involved in the initial, we didn't pay for the property, but we were involved when it was purchased, and that was 1998, and then I believe they actually bought it in 2001.
So it's a project like this is close to 15 years.
Correct. You know, it took time. They actually sort of wrote some funding sources. Park District was involved in that and created a wetland restoration fund from which that money came. So,
How do you access it? Where do you, I mean, there's no place to park, I assume.
well,
is there?
come to my tour and I'll show you.
Okay.
But you can park by the golf dome, and there's a pathway there we'd like to be able to somehow take advantage of. It's degraded, and I wouldn't encourage anybody to go walking on it without a guide.
Okay.
But,
I violated
but
that
it's there.
rule.
Did you?
I did do that.
Good, awesome. I'm glad you got out there.
Kind of said, look where I'm in the middle of the forest, wetland.
Yeah, fantastic. So
I'll wait for a guide.
Okay, please do.
Oh, this is wonderful.
All right. If you don't have any other questions, then I'm going to pass it over to Liz, and she's going to tell you about what we were up to today. Of course. The blue heron, there are blue herons there too. I just didn't get a picture. Have you seen them?
Yes.
See? There you go. Eyewitness.
They have such a large wingspan.
Oh, yeah. And the sandhill cranes are even cooler, and they sound like dinosaurs. Yep.
Does Donnie Dan ever go in there and look at the birds?
I suppose he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's Mr. Bird.
Liz?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so I apologize first for my voice. I think I'm losing it, but I'll do my best. Today was the newest aspect of a ravine education program that we have been putting on for Highland Park High School since 2011. Every year we try to improve the program, and the goal of the program is to introduce, educate, inspire our high school students to somehow make a connection to the ravines. And we're also trying to introduce them to different careers that they may not otherwise be aware of. Local experts that have a profession related to some kind of environmental education or stewardship. So the program originally was based on 4 visits down to Millard Park, where the students explored the ecosystem, they learned about water quality, and then over the years they started to release fish into the streams. And then over time we continue to build on that, and this year we were able to introduce an education symposium, and it was based off of bringing in about 10 local experts. So we had engineers, we had water quality specialists, we had botanists, and they came in and spoke to the students on their own careers and their work in the ravines. We had about 220 students at the Rec Center and Country Club today, and they all got a closer look at the ravines, and here are some pictures from that. So if any of you are familiar with the Wildlife Discovery Center in Lake Forest, we had Rob Carmichael. He was, I think, the biggest hit of the day. He brought critters out, snakes and toads and owls. Oh,
Salamanders.
Nope, okay, those are the only pictures. Salamanders brought out a little screech owl. We had another session. Ethan Brown from the Alliance for the Great Lakes led the students in scenario planning. So they looked 20 years into the future and thought about different situations that may occur in Highland Park and its lakefront. So this is the first of, we hope, many years of this Ravine Symposium. And next year we'll let you all know when it is, and we'd love to have you attend.
Thank you.
I want to hear about the burns.
All right.
Yes. That's the,
Liz should be up here for that.
yeah.
I have pictures of burns, but
They're not on
yeah,
there.
it's
I
all-
think we should start with
So-
I think we should start with the concept that it is a controlled burn.
Yeah, because you might get a phone call when this burn takes place. We'll wait and see
Controlled
what
burn.
happens.
So Liz and I are the natural areas staff members, and then we augment that with some contractors, and we are hoping soon, perhaps this week, to do a prescribed burn at Skokie River Woods for the first time. So we've done a lot of coordinating with the fire chief and the police officers and the public works building, which is next door, and all of those things, and we're excited about it. And yesterday, Liz and I had a little
our first burn of the season.
yeah, a little window of opportunity to go out and do some burning at Heller Nature Center.
So if you have friends that are driving down 41 and you get a call saying the Skokie River Woods are on fire, it's Rebecca and Liz.
Yeah, just
And
tell
Cal.
them Rebecca.
And me. I'll bring matches.
Okay, we use matches.
Do you?
Before Rebecca and Liz leave, I'm going to put you on the spot because I know you'll probably have a pretty close answer. So, you know, our natural areas department, we're looking at it, and they definitely get an assist from our Parks Department to a degree. But one of the things that Rebecca and Liz really rely heavily on is volunteers, as well as a lot of the programs that we have at Heller Nature Center. So every year, there's a volunteer dinner to recognize the people that have helped out at Heller and in the natural areas. And I think that one of the greatest stats from that evening is the number of man-hours that our volunteers put out. And can you,
I can get close.
Sorry, it's about 2,000 hours a year.
yeah, volunteer work, and then, which is phenomenal. So we have a little recognition dinner, and it's a unique group, and they're really, really passionate about Heller and about our natural areas and the work that these guys do. And so these are just some of the things that you don't hear a lot about, but it really, you know, it's an important component of what the Park District is about. So, thank you, guys.
What park did I visit you at? Maroney?
No, that was Highmore.
At Highmore.
Mhm.
But they did some nice work with volunteers there too.
How many volunteers do we have?
It definitely varies. Over the summertime, we are working with a group of maybe 15 to 20 students that Liz leads in summer volunteering. We have a core group of 10 or 12 adults who help us out at Heller Nature Center. And then we bring in school groups and Eagle projects and...
Well, and then the event that I spoke of today, it was 10 speakers, professionals that have jobs, full-time jobs, and our volunteers, like Trout Unlimited volunteers, and they all donated and volunteered their time. So when we have special events like this symposium today, we call on our kind of core group, and so that's probably like another 50 people that are our special use volunteers.
Yeah, that's right.
Was this Highland Park and Deerfield High School, or who were the invitees?
It was the environmental science students from Highland Park, so the regular and then the advanced placement classes.
Great.
And then we're able to offer those kids summer volunteering opportunities, and we have a single college-age internship that we invite them to come back and apply for when they go on and hopefully study environmental science, because we
Great.
always tell them that we need them to come back and give back to their town.
That's great.
So
thank you very much. I'm
with
sorry.
Color Nature in mind, I attended your Babies in Nature with a friend's child who was a little younger than 2 years old, and I was just so impressed. It was an organized walk. It was Jessica actually led it, and it was very intentional. The plant she showed, the kids had like a laminated. It was colors, and the kids could hold up brown, and it was just so wonderful to expose the kids to nature. And I was impressed at how much Jessica knew, because she would point out little things that, she even took a blade of grass and she whistled with it. I mean, I said, what kind of childhood did you have? I mean, she just played outside. At the end, they had a huge pile of leaves, and the kids just jumped in it. And, my kids are grown. I don't know if that existed back then, but it sure was nice to have kids outdoors and really exploring. So I was very proud of that program, and you guys should be too.
Oh, yeah, thanks for mentioning. We're very proud of the naturalists and their work there, and we work closely with them, and getting kids outdoors and jumping in leaves is really important.
And then burning them, right?
Burning the
That's what
leaves.
we did when we were
The
kids.
leaves.
Once
We
the kids
blew
are out-
grass and we burned
once the
leaves.
kids are out, you do that.
So,
All right. Thank
okay.
you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your award.
So as far as the regular director's report
Please.
goes, a good segue to that is that, your discussion about Heller, is that the Park District has partnered with, actually it's really the Heller Nature Center, with the Highland Park Public Library to bring what is called a story walk to Heller Nature Center. So what this is, it will be a circular trail that will have storybooks, and so every quarter they will change the book. And we kick off on December 3rd, and the book is Hibernation Station. I like saying that. So we're excited about that. And then
And what's the age group for that?
young kids, I think that there's no age limit, but I think it's really more attracted to reading stories to your kids with your kids while on the trail. So, but that is a new addition. So taking a drastic turn from Heller Nature Center to, believe it or not, the Polar Express is set to take off that same weekend on December 3rd and December 10th, and we actually added a train. So this year we have 510 kids participating in the Polar Express versus 348 last year, which is a pretty significant increase, and that's always a great event. So working backwards from from the holidays, Thanksgiving, check in. We have all of our holiday hours for the weekend on the website. And a couple of other items of note is the Deer Creek Racquet Club received a $1,000 grant from the USTA for a blended lines project, flipping from from tennis to golf. Just to note that the bids for Sunset Valley will be going out on November 22nd, which is 1 week from today. And bids are due back at the end or middle end of December, and then we will be back to you in January with the results. So I think that is quite a bit going on as we enter into the holidays. So we're preparing for snow, and the sled hill is ready, and the skating rinks will be ready. And maybe if it's not that weather, you can be out golfing. I will say Highland Park, or Sunset closes December 31st, where golf then will transition to Highland Park Country Club while the renovation is taking place, and we're all very excited.
Great.
And that is
Great to hear all these things.
the report.
Well, thank you for that. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to speak to the board again? We covered. I looked at Mrs.
Again, being
Bernstein.
the operative word.
Yes, well, that's all right. I think that, I particularly appreciated the comments about the garden. I think it's a great opportunity.
Program.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun, and everybody brought their children with, so kids were part of it too. And not my plot, but the one next to mine, it had a beehive, and that
Really?
had to be dealt with. So there were things that came up that were unexpected, and it was just great fun, and Diane was great. She was on top of everything, she took care of the plots when people couldn't, and she was wonderful. She runs a good program.
And you make a good gazpacho.
She was just wonderful, and we had a meeting where people brought food that they had grown. They made I made gazpacho, and somebody else made bruschetta, and we actually used our produce.
I think
And
that's
shared
just
it.
wonderful, and that's why I said we never got to share in it, so next year, 10%.
Yeah, it's just great.
Well, does anybody from the board wish to bring up any other topic? Is there a motion to go into closed session?
Someone. I think you have to read the whole thing.
Well, I was gonna ask, is there a need
don't
to
think
go
there-
into
I don't
closed
think we
session?
I don't
Closed
think we
session?
have closed session.
I'm okay with
No.
that.
I have nothing.
All right. So then, I think it's,
Rebecca, Scott Myers may have some extra time coming up if you need another volunteer.
I